Hi, I'm Donald Davidson. I'm the historian for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and this is part of the series called Stories with Donald. As far as films made at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that falls into several different categories because you had the situations where camera crews and the actors were actually here. And then you have the other ones where the Speedway was the backdrop, and maybe some of it was shot here, but it's possible that none of the actors came. And specifically, probably the three where a lot of shooting was done at the track would be Winning, which was made in 1968 and released in, I think, early May of '69. To Please a Lady with Barbara Stanwyck and Clark Gable, that was shot in 1950. And then in 1929, there was a silent film named Speedway, which was William Haynes and Carl Dane. And the big wheel will probably appeal. A lot of people say, well, the big wheel. Yeah, well, the big wheel, some of it was shot at the Speedway, but none of the actors ever came here. It's Mickey Rooney, never came to the track except for publicity shots later on. And then there's others that were real quick and dirties where no crew came in May. They just used stock footage from newsreels and so on and so forth. There was one that James Stewart appeared in, and I thought, was that called Speed, I think? It was made in 1935, and it's not bad, but he never came to the track, and all of the footage is either back projection, shot in Culver City, and where the drivers will be sitting in the cockpits and doing this, and its back projection is the action behind them. To Please a Lady wasn't too bad at all. Clark Gable was a racing enthusiast, and he was a guest of the track in 1947 and 48. Didn't come in 49, and then came to make the film in 50. Well, he'd actually gone to midget and sprint races in California in the 30s, mostly to the Legion Ascot Speedway, and then also Gilmore Stadium, which is where the midgets were. A lot of the Hollywood types would go out to just sit in the stands and be part of it. And Clark Gable did that a lot, and he would give, sometimes the feature, give them the cup for winning or the trophy dash or whatever it was. When he came in 47 as Tony Holman's guest, Wilbur Shaw was the president of the track, and I'm pretty much convinced that Wilbur Shaw was the connection. Shaw had spent several winters in California and then in the 30s while Ascot was going on, and he did flying instruction. So he gave James Stewart flying lessons, and he probably gave Clark Gable flying lessons. Speedway, 1929, is on Turner Movie Classics. It's a little bit of a disappointment because it's kind of a hokey comedy, and you wish that they could have taken a little more serious approach to it, because they do a lot of it shot in the garage area, and there's scenes going on with the actors. But then if you look in the group, you can see Chet Gardner and Babe Stapp and a number of the drivers are in there. Leon DeRay appears as himself very briefly, and because it's a silent film, there's titles, and there's a really bad edit, or let's say an edit which I find very unfortunate, when Leon DeRay is walking up to shake hands with the principal, and then there's a title comes up with whatever the dialogue would be, and then when the title comes down, then Leon DeRay's walking away. I think, hey, I wanted to see Leon DeRay more, hey. But anyway, near the beginning, there's a scene that takes place on the circle, and so it's right where approximately where MS Broadcasting is now. And if you look at across at an angle, you can see the little church next to the Columbia Club. And that's where Wilbur Shaw, his first wife passed away in childbirth. His second wedding took place in that little church. So you can actually see that, and I think that's probably about all that remains from that time if you go down there and look today, because most of it's new buildings. And but anyways, I'd say it's shot, a lot of it's in the garage area, and you just wish that because they had that that opportunity that they could have done a little bit more with it. Eddie Rickenbacker very much encouraged the fact that they were here, because he thought it would be great publicity for the track. And I don't know that you could really see this happening now, or maybe, but anyway, they had 2 pace cars. Little trivia, 2 pace cars at the start of the 1929 race. And of course, back at that time, they only did 1 lap. In 56 and earlier, they'd fire up the engines, the pace car would leave with the field and go around and then come off at the end of the first lap, and the race was on. There was no parade lap and waving at the crowd. Well, the pace car takes off in 1929, and there's a second pace car with a 35 millimeter camera on a tripod in the back. And so when you see the shots in fairly recent years where you're looking back at the front row, following you around on the pace lap, they did that in 1929, which was pretty high tech for the time. But Rickenbacker said, "We're doing it." By that time, not only was he the president and owner of title of the track, but he was also the chairman of the board of the AAA contest board, which was the sanctioning body. And so Rickenbacker, being Rickenbacker, said, "We're doing it."